Hello, Renee. How are you doing today?
Hello, Magic. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. For so many years I've been working with the US teams, and I've never been for Thanksgiving in the US. I never tasted the turkey. Never ever in
Oh,
my life.
well, I would offer to remedy that and have you come to our Thanksgiving, but we don't make turkey. We're from Puerto Rico, so usually it's either ham or pork. Ham and pork are the same thing, but it's a different part, and so you prepare it different, not like the American style ham. So I can't offer you a traditional Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, but I could offer you a traditional Puerto Rican Thanksgiving. My kitchen is already full with our pork, our arroz con gandules, um, amarillos, flan, all sorts of wonderful Puerto Rican stuff.
Maybe next year. I always say that maybe
Yes.
next year I'll spend Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is not a big thing in Poland, so I actually have no problem traveling. It was just never a reason to travel during the Thanksgiving to US because obviously
Mhm.
everybody is on vacation or some form of vacation. Um,
I
let me.
apologize for my setting, by the way. I am home and I'm coming to everyone from my cell phone because my MacBook Pro had a little bit of a screen accident and it's going to take them 5 to 7 days to get me my baby back. I'm
Oh,
just,
okay.
I am suffering.
You didn't buy the Apple Care Plus?
Yeah, I did. I did. I did buy the Apple Care, and thanks to that, I only have to pay $99 for the repair.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would have been $800.
Okay.
I always buy
Uh,
the warranties, so
I
that's
always buy the
a
warranties
good
as
tip.
well. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a good. Let's talk about the
yes,
leadership. I think today, we are going to talk about the second part of our mini series of the inspired by John Maxwell 21
yes,
irrefutable laws of leadership. Today is the law of the lead. So get ready to
yes,
lift the lead.
yes. And I love how you have a paint can with the color splashing. That's I would like to think a subconscious ode to Clean Canvas Consulting, and I'm excited about that venture. And so we're going to paint some new masterpieces for ourselves and our customers. A shameless plug there. But yeah, the law
It's
of
very
the
timely. It's very timely.
yes,
I think we need to tell everyone that look, we're gonna scratch the surface today because obviously you cannot learn everything from a video online from a kind of a
hmm
conversation of two friends
yeah,
kind of sharing their experiences. Renee has opened a new venture that I happily support, Clean Canvas Consulting. So obviously there's an opportunity for everyone that has a need to leverage those opportunities, leverage her skills, to contact Renee for more in-depth conversation about leadership skills development.
yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, yes,
I
and
see
a
that we have
lot to talk
Manuel
about.
who
Oh,
showed up today.
hey,
Manuel,
Manuel. Who else? Who else
happy
is out there?
Thanksgiving. I don't know. I don't know who else is there.
Welcome,
Anybody else?
Manuel.
Anybody else is ready to wish us a happy Thanksgiving? And
I know.
just
Say hello.
check my kind of
Check your phone.
my phone if there is any information. Okay. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, while you look for that, and as we start diving into the law of the lid, I want to share a little bit of what I was doing last week to lift my own lid. And so, for those who need a little bit of a visual aid, because this is something that's better illustrated, it basically talks about a lid would be like a ceiling, right, or a top. And your leadership skills, if you don't constantly work on polishing and growing and learning new skills and new ways of seeing the world and absorbing new information and applying it to your life, you're going to get stuck. And it's basically like hitting a virtual lid or ceiling, right? So you won't move from here. And if you're leading a team, that means that your team will also get stuck, right? And we'll do a few illustrations. Of course, we have an opinion, and we're going to talk to you about the ouster of the Chat GPT CEO. And what you might find interesting is that that's actually not a unique scenario when you have a founder or an entrepreneur that opens a business, and generally in kind of creative ventures such as software development or innovative ventures, the person that initially creates the product or the solution is generally not the person that has the right level of their lid to continue to manage the organization on their own as it grows. Because as things grow, they require different types of processes, and that requires different expertise, which requires different leadership, right? So we go back to that lid. As leaders, I encourage you to always be learning. And last week, I was in New York City. I came to you guys from the hotel room. Magic got me up very early in the morning. But we did the session from New York, and I was raising my lid, right? Learning from, there were like 10 different thought leaders, and it was fantastic. And so that is another illustration of, as a leader, you always want to be raising your bar, your knowledge bar, so you can continue to expand your organization. So Magic, how were you feeling about the law of the lid as you were reading through it? And all this past week, as you've been seeing some of the announcements and shakeups in tech. Also, the VMware acquisition came through for Broadcom, by the way.
Yeah. I believe, this is something that a lot of SMB and mid-market companies are going to face, this law of the lead. And maybe, maybe I will show it, Renee, and we can quote it what it is. Okay, so the law of the lead says that the leadership ability is the lead that determines a person's level of effectiveness. So you can be only as effective as you are at a certain point in time. And the lower your ability to lead is, the lower the lead is on the potential. But that's not only applying to you as yourself, but whenever you are the leader, your lead is limiting your entire organization. So if your leadership is 8, if you rate it from 1 to 10 on 8, then you can only get your organization to maybe a 7. So you need to be constantly aware of the fact that the whatever your capability is going to limit the capabilities of everybody else in your organization. And many SMB and mid-market companies have this challenge of the founder, the owner, the ownership, the people that have founded the company can only achieve so much. And that's typically creating a certain challenge. I've seen companies growing very large, where the owner still tries to make a decision by himself on every little aspect of the organization of the company. He did not learn how to delegate, right? That's obviously going to limit the organizational effectiveness. Whatever was happening in OpenAI is one of probably good examples of how the law of the lead was went to life, okay, or a good example of the law of the lead, because obviously the board, the CEO was bigger than the board, so the leadership in the board didn't manage to I guess lead the organization because they had their own limitation. That's how I read this, Renee.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's interesting because you see this in a lot of different places. One of the things that that I recommend a lot to businesses that are growing very quickly. And I actually, it's something that I've established. I'm in the process of establishing for my own business, is a board of advisors, right? Because that board of advisors has other experiences that you don't. But to your point, right? In this case, maybe the limitation was on the board of OpenAI, and their maybe their inabilities to understand maybe the leader and understand his needs and how to support him, and vice versa. Maybe there was like a communication lid on the part of the CEO, because in many of the articles that I've read, it talks about how the board perceived that he was holding back information, that he wasn't being transparent. And so, I tend to, and maybe this is a little bit naive, but I tend to believe that people um, want to contribute in a positive way. They want to do their best,
Yes.
and and when they falter, it's not necessarily out of evil intent. It's their own limitations that cause them to then make incorrect choices. And there's been a lot of pressure and a lot of attention on OpenAI, and it's grown very, very fast. There is a law of growth that says that growth breaks things, right? Imagine a seed, right? For a seed, for a plant or a tree to grow, the seed has to break open, right? Have you ever done the little bean experiment? Did your kids do it in science
I had
class?
3 daughters. Yeah.
Yes. So you've had a lot of bean
we had to
experiments.
we had to do it at least 3 or 4 times because every time something went wrong, we had to repeat that.
Yes, but that's a great example of, in order for that plant to grow, it has to break something. That's no different that when you're working out and you want to build muscle. That's no different than when you're building a company. And a company such as OpenAI that has grown so quickly definitely was going to run into multiple lids that were going to really be a constraint. Interestingly enough, Microsoft, which is a very mature company, right, saw that opportunity. They probably were waiting for that, and they've taken advantage of that. And I think that actually is going to put them in quite a leadership position, right?
Yeah. At the end of the
So
day, the move was great. But I want to say, Renee, I want to give another example, just for
yes,
everybody to make sure
hmm
that we explain the law of the lead
yeah,
extremely well. Okay, and I need to move
yes,
back on the slide. Uh, think about the law of the lead from one more dimension, and I will tell you from my experience. When I'm a musician. Many people don't know about that, but I
hmm
finished musical school. Okay, the law of the lead for me, the great example of the law of the lead was as I was moving through the different stages, like the primary school and then the secondary school. I didn't have one teacher teaching me to play instrument.
hmm
Okay, it was always moving from one teacher to another. There were teachers that would teach you extremely well the basics, how to hold the instrument, how to maybe
okay,
play the first tunes, how to read the notes, how to put your posture in the right way. Because maybe not many people know, to be a good musician, you also have to stand next to the instrument, or sit next to the instrument in a proper way, just to make sure that you don't hurt yourself later on when you need to play for a number of hours. Uh, so there was this in a primary school. The teacher would be more focused on the basics. But as
hmm
soon as you have mastered the basics, you would have to typically change a teacher to another teacher that maybe would teach you how to run a better phrase, or express yourself better. And then you go to the next one and the next one. So think about the law of the lead, that the leader has this capabilities, the certain capabilities, certain level of capabilities, and there are only two things that will happen. Okay, either the leader will limit the organization, and there's going to be a problem, so the leader will have to be replaced one way or the other. I mean, in the case of the OpenAI, there were only two possibilities: either they would replace the board of directors, or the board of of directors would stay, but all the talent would leave, right?
Mhm.
So that would
Yeah.
mean also replacing the leadership, or the leaders have to accept that fact and work and grow. Try to invest in the leadership development. I think I have prepared a couple of points for a discussion for the kind of a key implications of the law of the lead in leadership, and I wanted to discuss them with you. The number one that we already touched on
Mhm.
is the
Yep.
the leadership capability or capacity limits the organizational success. Okay,
Hmm.
so I think this is an important observation that we've already made. Uh, the law of the lead, the organization cannot surpass its leadership. It can only act, to the capacity of the leader itself, right? That's the
Yep.
kind of a primary implication of the law of the lead, correct?
Yeah, and another example that Maxwell talks about, it has to do with vision, right? And sometimes when you're limited by your experience of your knowledge as a leader, you can only see the organization going so far. The example that he highlights is McDonald's. So you're familiar with the Golden Arches, right? The burgers, right? What few people know, it was founded in the 1930s by two brothers that moved out to California, and they set up this little tiny burger joint. Um, but they were very content with the fact that they were making $100,000, which at the time was a lot, for each brother, and they were just happy with what they were doing and the processes they were making, and the improvements and their customers. And so they were just thrilled. That's as far as they were thinking of going. And then came another person who basically was one of their milkshake suppliers, the milkshake machine supplier. And he actually bought the brothers out because the brothers could not see beyond their little location in California. And Ray, who was the guy from the milkshakes who bought the rights to McDonald's, actually was able to get 500 locations across the US in 4 years, which, imagine that speed of growth for brick and mortar locations and that explosion, because he had the business know how and he had the vision to think really big, right? And today we have McDonald's everywhere. Do you have a McDonald's in Poland? I
Oh
think
my
you do.
goodness! I remember the first McDonald's that they opened in Poland.
Uh-huh.
It was a big celebration, actually, because McDonald's. Maybe you might not know that, Renee. In the 80s, McDonald's was seen as the symbol of West in Poland.
Okay. Ah, okay.
So
Interesting.
I remember for the first time I went outside of Poland, when I traveled to the Western Europe. One of the things that I absolutely wanted to do is to go to McDonald's and see
Hmm.
McDonald's by myself, because I've heard
Hmm.
about McDonald's so much. There were two symbols of West in Poland. One was McDonald's and the other one was Coca-Cola.
Ah, okay. Hmm.
Yeah, something, like the dreams. It sounds
Hmm.
really funny now, because right now, frankly saying, McDonald's is not that
Hmm.
amazing, but I remember all the queues outside of a McDonald's, the
Yeah.
first restaurant in Warsaw, all the queues that were standing there, because it was seen as a big thing. And funny enough, it's funny. It looks funny today, but people would dress up to go to
Hmm.
McDonald's. So
Hmm.
put a suit, white shirt, and a tie,
Hmm.
because they've seen it as such a important,
Yeah.
celebration of freedom. It, yeah, so that's a little bit of a digression, but yes,
No, but it speaks to what what it what strong leadership can do, and how it transcended it transcended being a burger joint. It became the ideal of a dream, right? The ideal of potentials to other countries. So no, it's very relevant. Absolutely. I
yeah.
love it. Yes. Excellent.
So leadership capacity will limit your organizational success. If you want to break through, if you want to grow from like a little burger shop to a international chain,
Yeah.
you probably need to bring additional advisors. You can change the leadership, or you can bring additional advisors, because
Yes.
what you need to do is the kind of implication number two.
Yes.
If you want to grow your organization as a leader, you need to invest in personal development. You need to make sure that as a leader, you become how you said that last time, I think, the continuous
Learners.
learner.
Yeah. Leaders
Continuous
or
learner.
learners. Yeah.
I think this is the only way. Either you have to be replaced, or you will have to invest in yourself, in learning. And that's why so many small and medium businesses at a certain point in time decide to put an advisory board, like what you are doing at the moment, Renee, for yourself, knowing the situation a little bit upfront, correct?
Yeah. 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 And, what's interesting, and you and I have worked in an industry for a long time where business.
Either we've lost Dr. Renee, or I was disconnected. We'll give her a minute or two to connect with us. I'll just check if she's with us.
Oh, am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me do something real quick.
Technical challenges.
How about now?
It's
Am I
good. In
back?
the meantime, we have
Okay.
comment from
Yes.
Manuel. I do find that this
Okay.
happens across different levels of management, but not just CCO at every exec. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
in a multi-layer company, the leads will be, multi-level, right? Everybody could become a limiting factor for their own team if they don't invest in themselves. Manuel, that's very, very accurate statement, and a very good observation. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. I'm sorry, team. I had phone calls coming in, so my apologies. But I'm back. Yes, Manuel, you're absolutely right. And that's why I was going to say, with the business that Magic and I were in for so many years, a lot of these small business owners were our resellers, or our value-added resellers, who were started by one or two engineers or friends. And one of the things that was always very important, and we kept seeing this, was while they kept up with their technical skills, as small business owners, where they sometimes faltered was in having a good succession plan, and having, sometimes the sons or the daughters didn't want to take on the business, and they ended up having to sell the business and the customer base to another business. So personal development needs to come from different angles. You have to be aware of different things, particularly when you're an owner, or when you run actually any size of business that you run, right? You want to make sure you have what we tend to refer to as an exit strategy, right? What happens when you exit the picture? Do you want the company to continue, or the organization to continue on without you? So think about that.
So what that implies, there is another implication that comes from the fact that there is a lead, and this lead, as Manuel said very, very intelligently, is not only at one level of the organization, but at every level of the organization. Is if you don't invest in your company, in your leadership skills, if you don't raise your lead, what's going to happen is the talent is going to suffocate. I think that's one of the things that happened in OpenAI, where obviously, probably the CEO Altman, Sam Altman, probably has outgrown the vision of the board. I don't know. We don't know, because there's not much information about it. But we've seen so many times situations where the new leader, the leader that was not equipped to manage the organization properly, started to lose his team because people were basically outgrowing him and they didn't find any space to grow further in the
Mhm.
organization that was capped by the leader that couldn't grow any further. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember a lot of times coaching a number of people who were very frustrated because they perceived that, hey, John Smith is going to be in that role until he dies, right? I'm never going to be able to get promoted to that level because that person's never going to leave that role. And, in order to retain top talent, it goes back to that utilization. You need to make sure that people understand where you see them and how you're utilizing their talents and how you're meeting their aspirations, right? Most everybody wants to grow further in their career, not just because it's financially beneficial, but there's a sense of satisfaction when you continue to grow and challenge yourself, which again goes back to raising that lid. Most people want to constantly be raising that lid, and it's important that as a leader you recognize that and you make sure that you're doing your part to help them.
We have another question or comment from Manuel. Manuel, thanks for
Uh-huh.
being active today.
Yes.
What is your experience with organizations that promote to management based on tenure and not on leadership capabilities, soft skills, or merit? Manuel, it's not only tenure. It's sometimes the promotion is based on the very specific technical or technical understanding or technical knowledge or mastering a certain type of activities. Okay, so a really 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 good project manager or product
Mhm.
manager becomes the leader, the manager of the product management or project management team, not necessarily having leadership skills.
Right.
Okay, or a really really good manager is put in charge of the larger organization, maybe with directors as direct reports, and doesn't recognize the seniority of his leadership team.
Mhm.
Okay, and that leads to the very very difficult situation. So we've seen it. I mean, I've seen it many times. I had bosses that were promoted that I have inherited or were brought to our team that were just simply not equipped. And some of them, to be very fair, some of them invested in their own development and they
Mhm.
became better and better bosses. That's true. Many of them would basically burn over time. Unfortunately, I would leave to another organization, or they would decide that this is not the job for them. I don't know. I think Renee, you probably have examples like that as well.
Yeah, this is interesting because this is what happens when there's no clarity on what are the criterias for promoting or growing within an organization. And unfortunately, this tends to plague organizations of any size, right? Now, all the things that you mentioned, Manuel, right? Like soft skills or leadership abilities, a lot of that is based on perception. So I've run into people that are very good at portraying something in front of upper management, but when they work with their peers or with people below them, it's like you're seeing a totally different person. So the leadership above may perceive that that person is perfectly suited for that role, while you, as someone who's maybe reporting to that person, are like, why did they ever get chosen, right? And I think that that speaks to a larger problem within the organization, whereas everybody in the organization should have a very clear understanding of what are the merits or the things that you need to bring to the table to be promoted. It shouldn't be a mystery. It shouldn't be something that, oh, it's because somebody taps on the shoulder and they're the best friend, or they're connected, that they get promoted. Sadly, I've also seen organizations where the cultural corruption and corrosion is such that people get promoted when they're incompetent just because they want to get them out of that department. And they're like, let somebody else deal with that problem, right? And that's so damaging to the overall organizational culture. The advice that I would have for you is get out as soon as you can. Because again, you have to focus on the things you can control. And you can't control other people's behaviors and other people's judgments. And if you're not in a position to start outlining processes and being transparent about what it takes to get promoted in the organization because you don't have the power position, then it's time to move on, right? As hard as that might be.
Yes, and Manuel, thanks for bringing that question, because that brings us to the fourth kind
Perfect.
of implication, which is the leads that the leader has, the lead on capabilities, the limitations, capability limitations will influence the
Yes.
organizational culture. You cannot expect, from the organization that is being led by someone who doesn't have a vision, who doesn't understand the story well. You cannot expect this organization to be innovative, to be built on the trust, on the collaboration. It's gonna limit the organization's culture as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
The final kind of a dimension, or the final implication of the law of the lead that I could think
Yes.
of, okay, is the impact on the decision making and problem solving as well. So obviously, the organization that is efficient and effective has to be moving fast, with in terms of has to make the right decisions, okay, and a leader that has limits in how what he can understand, he can perceive, he can implement, is going to limit the overall decision making and problem solving capabilities of the organization. And that's super important, because it's not only that it's not only going to impact the efficiency of the organization, but also the decisions that are going to be made by the organization, because the example will come from the top. Those organizations will be poor, probably lead to some kind of a challenges over time from the business, and impact the business growth and the business overall. Yeah.
Yeah, Magic. I don't want to keep picking on OpenAI, so I'm going to switch a little bit to Disney, right?
Okay.
Disney is here in Florida. It's a large employer in Florida, and they've been through some really tumultuous times. They recently, Bob Iger had retired, who was their CEO for a very long time and really had catapulted Disney into some great success. He retired. He had done, I think, what he believed was a very good plan in picking a successor. But when you imagine leading an organization the size and complexity of Disney, also a global organization, an entertainment giant who deals in movies and theme parks and so many different aspects of entertainment, it's quite complex, and it's got to be really difficult. And it led to the Disney board losing confidence after a number of failed decisions and solutions to some problems. It led the board to basically ask Iger to come back as CEO. They released the CEO that was there prior to ask him, thank them for his service, and let him go, and then brought Bob Iger back because he was the leader that they had faith and trust that could bring the organization back into a state of stability and solve some of their big problems that they were facing with streaming and some of the new changes in technology, because changes in technology are pushing Disney into an unprecedented type of situation and problems, bigger problems. It's interesting. We'll see if Bob Iger is able to not only solve those problems, but then bring a successor that can, because he said he was only going to do it for 12 months. So we'll see, right?
Should I submit my application
Your
for?
resume? Yeah, maybe. Why not? I'll have
I
you
could
as a
move to
neighbor.
Orlando.
Yes.
for
Yes.
longer. Yeah, but
Yes.
that's actually the example that you bring is the third one that I know now. Okay, the
Yeah.
Disney, the Apple, and obviously the OpenAI.
Yeah.
Kind of bringing the CEO in the world of technology and AI. Obviously, it took just a weekend, not a couple of years, but that's
Yeah.
a completely different story.
Yeah.
Okay, we've covered the law of the lead. I hope that everybody understands. Again, you as a leader know yourself
Mhm.
that if you have a lead, you have capacity, capabilities, whatever we call it, and that will determine not only your effectiveness and your ability to drive business, but it's going to impact your organization. And if you don't invest in yourself, in your leadership skills, you're probably going to either lose business,
Mhm.
lose talent, or develop a culture and the organization that over time is going to start on a downward spiral. So the recommendation is invest in yourself. If you believe that there's an opportunity for your organization, yourself, you would like to test ideas, there are tools to do that.
Mhm.
As we said many times with Renee, you can learn to be a great leader. Um Clean Canvas Consulting can help, Renee, correct?
Yes. Absolutely.
There are some one-on-one workshops. There are also some coaching. There's some opportunities for like more. How do you call it? This kind of a coaching capabilities
The
that you are testing at the moment.
so we have masterminds, we have assessments, we have team coaching, individual coaching. There's really a lot of dimensions, but I again will tell you it starts with you, right? Don't focus on everybody else's flaws, right? Start on working on your own lids and your own limitations. We all have them. And it's not only with development, but with having really trusted partners like I have in Magic to, call out certain things for you in good faith, right? And honestly saying, hey, I want to see you grow and succeed, right? That's what a board of advisors will do for you. That is what your personal CEOs or your personal board of advisors for your development growth, not just for a business, right? Have a group of trusted friends that can help you raise your lid, that can challenge you. Magic challenges me every week with his knowledge of AI and his slides and all this content he throws my way. And I'm like, I've tried to do the chat GPT and I'm learning, but I'm learning much slower than he is. So find a trusted partner that you can work with to continue to raise your lid.
Yes. Thank you so much, Renee, for today's
Thank you.
discussion. Thanks, Manuel, for being an active
Yes.
supporter of our conversation today. And next week we'll talk about the next law.
Yes,
Correct?
we
Okay.
will. It's
Thank you,
the law
Renee.
of influence. We'll see you next week with the law of influence.
See you next week with the law of influence. Thank you so much.
Thank
Goodbye.
you, everyone. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Goodbye.